Okay, I think we're good to get started here. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Welcome to an overview of Aladtec here today. My name is David Snyder. I'm a support specialist here with Aladtec, and I'm joined today by one of our system specialists, Matt Zinnel, who will take over for the overview here in a little bit. I'm going to give you a little bit of background here first about Aladtec. Today's webinar is going to be about 45 minutes. We're going to do a quick overview of Aladtec and what we're about, and then I'm going to pass it over to Matt, and he'll walk you through the system for EMS. We have a couple of quick polls here that we hope to get some information out of you, to get some to get some ideas of where you're from and what we're looking at here, and we'll get that up on the polls as they come along. And if you have any questions during the webinar, that's what I'm here for. I'll be fielding those. You can put them in the chat window in the GoToWebinar dashboard as we go along, and I'll answer what we can. And if need be, maybe we'll save them for the end, and Matt will be able to show you any details in regards to those different schedules. We're also going to walk through the system itself and show you all the different elements of what you can do in the system, and we'll just be able to get you everything you need and answer those questions as we go. So as a start here, we're going to just talk about who we are. What is Aladtec? We'll just let you know we're a cloud-based scheduling and workforce management software platform. Our system is designed to handle the unique staffing habits of EMS and other public safety agencies. We're based right here in River Falls, Wisconsin in the Midwest. We're about 30 minutes east of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Twin Cities area. Our company started back in 2002, and we're a web-based, and we started as a web-based scheduling system for a local ambulance service. And since then, we've grown to host more than 2,100 agencies with over 135,000 users across the United States and Canada. Our EMS customers range from a small rural department that you see there on the left with about 30 members, all the way to a really large urban agencies with hundreds of paramedics and EMTs in multiple stations. And our system is designed to accommodate all those different situations. We do everything in-house. You can see some of our staff here. We do everything from engineering to configuration to sales and support. So when you call, you're going to always be speaking with a real person right here in Wisconsin, and there's a nice staff pic from last summer. Very nice. You can access our system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can access it from any time, from any desktop, tablet, or smartphone connected to the internet. It updates instantly, changes their lives, so users always have the most current version of schedules and other content within. There are no extra costs. We provide all setup and training and unlimited telephone support as long as you're a customer. All the upgrades are free. Everything is included as part of your subscription. And we can make that service, as unique as it needs to be. We can create schedules as your department needs, and in terms of maybe shift patterns, as long as it is a pattern, we can replicate that and build it as a custom rotation for you in your system. And that's just one example of how you can customize the system for your own service needs. So we're going to start here with a quick poll here, if that's all right. I'm going to launch a poll here, and we would just like to see what describes your agency the best. If you look at the options there, are you a volunteer service? Are you a combination fire and EMS? If you want to just take a moment and look over those options and maybe give us an answer there, we would just get an idea of the folks on the call here and get a better idea of the different areas that we can be looking at. We'll give people a few seconds to check that out. All right. Thanks very much for participating in that. We're going to close this up here. And we'll just do a quick look here, and we'll just see, looks like it's kind of an even split here. So there is some fire and EMS in there and another. So, all right, terrific. Okay, I think we're going to be able to switch it over here to Matt, and he's going to give you an overview of Aladtec's features and some of its benefits, and that's going to help you determine whether your system is a good fit for your organization. So here we are, Matt. Take it away. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Dave. All right. Appreciate the intro. And like you said, everyone, my name is Matt Zinnel, Assistant Specialist here with Aladtec, and I primarily help with building and configuring systems for anyone who's interested in our system and helping throughout the implementation process. So today we're going to be viewing a generic EMS system for the most part, trying to cater to a lot of the specifics to EMS and making sure I touch on as many of the different methods that is commonly used for scheduling. So we're going to go through a lot of those, but as Dave mentioned, as questions come up, you can put those into the questions area, and I can try to get to them as I'm going throughout the system, or we will all address those at the end. But just starting off here, just to get going, really what you're going to see when you first log into Aladtec, this is our home screen. And again, to access our system from anywhere that has an internet connection, all you have to do is type in aladtec.com, and then the name of your department will follow right from that for your custom URL. Once you do log into that, like I said, you'll see your dashboard here. This is where you'll see any sort of pending requests that are out there. If you do have administrative access to actually make those different approvals or denials. So any sort of signups, trades, time off, those are all going to be listed right here. You'll also see any sort of upcoming shifts, any information that is coming close to expiring. So that could be any sort of licenses or certifications. We'll look at that when we actually get to the database. And then any sort of events, trades, or discussions will follow right from there. But again, that area is really going to be unique to each person based on what your access is. For example, if you're just a standard EMT in a particular system, you will only see the information that's expiring that relates to you rather than the information that relates to everybody that an admin would actually see. I also like to point out that you can really customize this first page here. So if you wanted to add any sort of links, any sort of images, you can embed videos for training purposes, lots of different things you can do to really customize this page and make it your own. So really the next portion we're going to be diving to is the member database. And this is really where you can track any of that data. And again, as an admin, you can see this information for everybody all on this main screen here. All of your filtering options are going to be located in the top right corner. So if you do have a lot of info in here, just know that you can really trim it down to just show you what you want to see. But these are just some examples we have from very basic information like their contact, what their date hired is, their title, all the way to some of those different licenses. So your state licenses, your CPR, EVOC, all those different licenses that are going to want to make sure that those are all up to date and can provide a little warning here if you are ever expiring or coming close to expired. And this can be sorted, which is kind of a nice way to look at it too. So if you click on the header there, that'll actually group them newest to oldest, and you can quickly see who needs to get that updated. So if we want to look at just one person's profile in particular, let's just take Carlos here. So if we hover over Carlos's name and hit edit member, that's going to take us right into his profile page. So this is really more what Carlos would see as an end user within the system, but he's actually a scheduler. So we're going to go through a couple of the items in here and show you how we can configure his particular needs. So just kind of starting from the top, you have your basic information, first name, last name, login password, date hired. It's all pretty straightforward, but right under that, that's where we're going to have your different access levels, where we can determine, are you an actual user, a scheduler, an admin? We can configure those access levels to really be specific to what different types of access you have. So if you're a larger department, you might have a lot of different middle tier items right in there. We also do have different work group profiles. These are essentially the different rules that each group is regulated by within the system. A very common one is going to be a full-time, part-time. And then we also have their different messaging information. So this is, of course, where we encourage each person to add in their mobile phone number, their email address, and then their mobile phone provider. So that way we can send you different notifications, as those are going to be our primary methods of communication in Aladtec, are all through text and email. All right, so right under that is the notifications section. So this is where each person can configure how they want to receive messages. And aside from this, there's really about 3 other ways that we can send you notifications in Aladtec, but as a main focus, I want to make sure that people do turn these on, as this first section for the My Requests. When any of your signups, trades, or time off requests are actually approved or denied. By checking these boxes, that'll make sure that you get notified when those are actually processed by your scheduler, and get you that notification sent right away. And then under the My Alert portion, that's where we can check different form notifications, which I'll touch on a little bit later. And then we also have an upcoming shift reminder. What the upcoming shift reminder does is it'll send out a message 24 hours before each of your shift times, and that'll just remind you of when and where you're actually working that day. So definitely beneficial for anyone who is doing more of an availability type schedule, where if you're not really working a set pattern and your shifts are a little more sporadic, that can be a nice addition to making sure people know that they have to work. Now, this section off to the right here, this is really only visible to people who have scheduling access, as what you can configure here is how you want to receive messages when any sort of signups come in or time off. So if you are working at a larger, fire and EMS service with multiple different stations, I really only want to manage my station. So I can actually configure these access levels to send me an email or text, either by access levels or by work groups, and those can all be configured depending on your specific requirements. So that's something we'll talk about during the initial setup of your system and get that all configured. And the nice part about that is I might only get messages for my people, but I can still manage everything if that's the case and how you want to set that up. So if you were filling in for a different battalion chief or a different director or anything like that, you can definitely do so. All right, and under that is going to be any different work qualifications. So again, an area that's going to be very different for each service depending on how we design your schedules, as all the different schedules and the positions within them are listed here. Those you can have as many of those as you want, and they can be labeled however you'd like, and we configure that per person. So depending on what you're actually qualified to work, that regulates how the system functions. So who can I trade with? What shifts can I pick up? What area can I even see? So lots of different ways that we can configure those qualifications. Under that is the time off accrual section. This is an optional feature. You don't have to turn this on to use our time off tool. You can just use it and just pull a report on the hours that have been used. But if you do want to track how many hours people still have, we can create these different accrual profiles. And basically we can set these up. A very common way is year 0 through 5, 5 through 10, and we can define the rate of time that they do accrue those hours. And based on how that's set up, it'll automatically add those hours into those banks. And then whenever that time off is used within our system, it will deduct from those banks. So again, just a nice little visual on the front end of an approval, so you know how many hours people have. And of course, giving people access to this information where they might not have that now, where you might get those numbers on your pay stub, but at any point in time, they can actually go in here and see that live balance of how many hours they have. All right, and then everything else in this bottom portion of the database is really yours to customize. You can make this look however you want. These are just some basic samples that we have preloaded in here for just general information, certifications, immunizations, different items like that. But to customize that, if you go under the Members tab and the Database Configurator page, that'll take you to this screen here, and you can do this yourself. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is drag and drop any fields right into this section. So any text fields, select lists for a little drop-down menu. We have check boxes. There's different expiration dates. You do want to make sure, if you are tracking the certifications, that you're using the expiration dates if it is something that actually expires, as opposed to something that might just be a completed date that doesn't have to be renewed. Then you just use a regular date field. We also did recently add an attachments feature. So if you did want to actually upload a physical scanned copy of that certification, then we can add in a different attachment feature, and then that can be uploaded right to there. All right. So moving on to the actual schedule, as that as a whole is some of the main functionality of the member database. Again, there's a lot of different ways to manage this data and update it. Those are all tips and tricks that we can show you when we call you, get your system all set up, and we have a lot of videos that can address the different tricks in here too. But just diving right into the actual schedule, what we're looking at right now is our monthly calendar view. And I'd say overall, this is our most popular view, as you really do get to see the most information all in one screen here on more of a calendar style in terms of who's working, any sort of time off that's already been approved or is pending, lots of different information that we can add on here. Now, with that said, for someone who might be in a middle to large size department, it might seem like a ton of information, but we can really, of course, filter this down. So if you don't want to see all of this, you can click on your edit link right here, and you can trim it down to just what you do want to see. So if that's going to be something as basic as just selecting one particular schedule, you can actually filter off some different, maybe I don't want to see the time off or any events, things like that. But we can definitely clean up the view quite a bit. So if you did just want to see a particular area, you can trim that down just like this. And I also wanted to run you through some of the other views that we have. So if you do want to use more of a daily view, this daily blocks view is really nice. It really gives you an hour by hour breakdown. Your positions are down the left side there. And then if we do set up your system with a minimum staffing count on a particular, whether it's a vehicle or a station or however you're going to define those schedules, we can add in that minimum staffing count to give you a heads up when you are actually short on a given day. So that's one way to look at it. We also do have a daily summary view for more of kind of a list format, just to show you kind of the dates and times and positions, different items like that, along with a couple different weekly options. So again, it really has their own preference in terms of what they're used to seeing. And I think this is actually a good little pause moment here for a quick poll, just to kind of get an idea on, let's pull this up here, on how you guys are currently managing your schedules. I always like to get kind of an idea so I can relate to, is it more of a spreadsheet or is it something manual, or maybe you're currently using a different solution right now. But that's one of the reasons we like to have so many of these different options for views, as when you're moving to a new solution or something like that, it's always good to try to be consistent with what people are used to seeing to make that a little bit easier of a transition. All right. So it looks like we have a relatively even split here. Again, spreadsheets, another solution, and a couple of other options within there, which is great. So as you can imagine, everybody's used to seeing something a little bit different. All right, so let's head over back to our monthly calendar view. There was a couple different items I wanted to show you in here in terms of actually making changes to your schedule. So let's say if you're actually trying to fill a shift on a given day, let's say we're short on the 15th here. So if we're looking at the 15th, I have Cameron who's actually on vacation for that day. That was pre-approved, and we're short a paramedic on my ALS truck. So from here, what you can do to notify people of this is send out what we call a find coverage alert. So really all you have to do is click on this blue envelope for that day. You can see I do have 2 open positions. I'm also short an EMTM Medic 5. So I could check both of these to address both of those shortages. But for this example, we're just going to send that out to my paramedics. Because what this tool does by default is it's only going to send out this message to people who are actually qualified to work that shift and that position. It's also going to exclude anybody who's already working during that time frame, and it's also going to exclude anybody who's already on approved time off. Now, you can edit that recipient list to be a little more manual if you'd like. There are ways to group people, like I said, with the work groups. Let's say I would prefer to fill this with a part-timer. So I could actually just send this out to my part-time group first. It's really up to you in terms of how we define that target group of people that we want to be aware of this. It's also going to be pre-populated here in the bottom right corner. You'll see this is what the email looks like, saying that your department's looking for someone to cover the following position, schedule, date, and time. That'll all be listed right there. And then it has a link that they can click on to take them directly to the system. Or if they had gotten a text message and that's what they wanted to receive, then they could pull up our mobile site right on their phone and volunteer and sign up for that. So again, pretty quick and easy just to check that box, select who that's going to, or just have it go out to everybody by default. Hit send, and that'll notify all of them. And then anybody who's interested can actually volunteer and sign up for that particular position. So I have Carlos and my director here who actually have both volunteered for that paramedic spot. So we're going to go ahead and walk through the actual approval process. Now you can approve them right from here just by clicking on them, but we're going to go to what's called the hourly editor page, as there's a lot more information in here when it comes to making different types of decisions like these. So if I hover over ALS truck, we're going to hit edit schedule. And that's going to, again, take me to my hourly editor screen. So a couple different pieces of information in here. You'll notice on this bottom section, these are my 2 signups. So those do float right to the top of my list. And then I also have everybody here who's just on a regular day off in this middle section, along with everybody who's scheduled elsewhere all the way on the bottom. Now, I know a lot of departments might do this based on, first come, first serve. Is it seniority? If you are managing a part-time group, lots of times it could be based on hours worked previously. So this calculator can come into a lot of different scenarios to really just give you an idea of how many hours each person already has within a given time frame. All of this section can be configured under this edit link here. So top right corner, when we click on that edit link, that's going to give you a list of all your different schedules again. But what I was referring to is this schedule, or this calculator rather, as this is where you can say, I want to view the hours for the week, the month, year to date, pay period, a couple different options in terms of what range that is capturing. You can do it for a set number of schedules. And then it can be either a grand total, or we can break that down of just overtime or different items like that. So very flexible calculator that can give you an idea of where you're at in hours. And then you can also, of course, add different pieces of information from the database. So up to 7 different items from the database. One of them being date hired is very common. Set this up the way you'd like it. And then if we're going to do this based on hours, I'm actually going to approve the EMS director position here. So if we click on that, then you get the ability to approve or deny that request. Another layer that we can add into the schedule are different time types. So if you did need to code these separately for more reporting purposes, to give you really just more specifics on why did we have that type of overtime, or what is this exactly for. We can create those different time codes. So when people are assigned into those positions, when I hit approve there, that really did a number of different things where it assigned that person into that vacant spot. So that's now filled, minimum staffing is met. It also did automatically decline the other sign-up requests. So both people got a message letting them know they were approved or denied for that. And then that shift is now coded as overtime. That will pull right into my reports. So that's really the standard sign up and approval process. Definitely a big time saver for a lot of people. But I wanted to show you a couple other tools in this hourly editor, as it is a really nice tool that can give you a lot of flexibility when making adjustments to your schedule and making them quickly. Actually, let's just look at a Medic 5 here in my ALS truck. So I'm actually going to take my EMS director right out of there. I made a mistake. I don't want him working that. So if I hit delete shift, that'll pull him out. And what you can do is, let's say I actually would rather fill that with Bob. So if I pick up Bob, you'll actually notice, it actually grayed out that paramedic spot because Bob is an EMT. He's not qualified as a medic. So the drag and drop does factor that in, where if I grab Leslie here, I can pick her up and I can drag and drop her into that position. So you can really make quick adjustments that way, just by using that tool to move people around and make sure you are filling it with the appropriate people. You can also, of course, add people manually to the schedule. So if you're someone who actually builds the schedule on more of a day-by-day basis, one being with availability, which I'll be covering here shortly, but you can actually go in here and let's say I just want to add in Carlos to that position. I can select his name, hit add, and add him in there, as everybody you're currently viewing down here is qualified as a paramedic. All right. So I wanted to step away from some of the admin functions really quick and show you a little bit more what it looks like as an actual end user within the system. So if I go to the My Schedule page, this is really where you can see just my personal schedule when I have to work, and this is also where I can take any sort of action. So again, as a user, this is really the only page you really need to know how to use. If I need to put in a time off request, it's really just a matter of clicking on that shift. I can either request a trade for that or submit time off. So if we hit submit time off, you can define your time range, date and time, and then you can also choose the different code that you'd like there. Again, a big benefit of the accruals, it will also be right there in front of them, letting them know you currently have 96, so it costs you 12, you'll have 84 after approval. So we're gonna hit submit. Let's do a trade next. So if we go to the 20th, I can click on that, I can hit request trade. And we do have two different types of trades in Aladtec. We do have giveaways and we have swaps. So a giveaway is really more of a one-sided trade where you're just going to work for me and that's the end of the transaction. There's really no payback date required. Where a swap, you actually do have to offer me something, a shift back before it even goes up for approval. So it is more of a day-for-day transaction. You can allow them to change the times. If your staff can do maybe just a portion of their shift, that's an option there. We also do have a list of recipients. So I can either send this out to every single person in my recipients list here, or I could just choose an individual. So let's say I was talking to Leslie yesterday and I know that she's gonna work for me. So I can send it just to her and not bother everybody else with a message. So then the other individual can accept that and offer a shift back, and then ultimately everything does go up for approval, unless you want things to automatically approve, and that's a way a lot of the configuration is done in Aladtec. Again, is going to be customized to you and how you want to operate. All right, and then lastly, for those signups, that process I was showing you just prior to this, if you do click on this open shifts button right here, that's going to show that individual all those vacant shifts that are out there for the month. So if I wanted to sign up for this ALS truck here on the 22nd, then I can click on that and I can hit sign up. You can even type in a note there if you want. All right, so really the next portion here, actually, I think it was price we're going to go. And I wanted to talk a little bit about availability scheduling. As I know a lot of departments do use our rotations, and essentially we can really build any sort of rotations that you need for any sort of variation of 1 day on, 2 days off, 3 days. It really doesn't matter. You let us know what you need, we can definitely structure that into the system. But when it comes to availability scheduling, this is a tool that we can use to allow our staff to go in and say for December, I can go in and I can edit my availability to start adding this in. We do have 3 different types. You can disable some of them if you don't want to use all of them, but I can basically go through and just say, all right, I'm available this day, I'm available that day, and actually I'm available based on my other work schedule. I'm available every Friday for the next foreseeable future. So I'm just going to add that in there for a couple different weeks. I can add that in and that'll go in every Friday. So there's a number of different ways that we can add a repetition even to that process to streamline that. And then all of that information consolidates into one area for the scheduler. So if you are more building your schedule on that day-to-day basis here, if we go back to our hourly editor, let's pull up my wheelchair van quick. I know that's one I fill based on availability. So if we go forward to December here, it's actually blank. That's what those purple positions are indicating. And if I hit edit schedule, that's where you can see, all right, I'm going to fill that with Sylvia. She's available. And then I can just keep paging forward to the next day and add the people in it based on that different availability. Another item that you can add to that is schedule publishing. So if you do release your schedule on more of a monthly basis, or you want to essentially hide the schedule from everybody until it's actually completed, that can be defined based on schedule. We have some different publishing features for automatic, manual, and custom, where we can either have that automatically going out on the 15th or anything like that too. But really, aside from any sort of other labeling, processes in terms of like different events or any sort of details that you might have outside of your regular schedule. There's lots of ways that we can document that with these different events tools. Those are really the main functions I wanted to touch on for the schedule. There was a couple other features I wanted to run you through here really quick, and then of course we can dive into the questions itself, but happy to go through anything else that you would like. So next is our forms tool. You can really customize our forms to really match any sort of fields that you're currently using on, whether it be paper or a PDF or anything like that. But under our forms tool, these are some of the different fields that we have: short answer, number, long answer, and all of these can be created again, just like the member database, where it's all drag and drop. So I can grab any of the fields from the left side. It's very easy to build. I guarantee you'll figure it out very quickly if you start playing around with it. And a lot of the similar options in terms of attachments. We can even have electronic signatures in here. But that's how you build it. And I do have a couple samples in here, which we're always happy to make suggestions to on how exactly you might want to transfer a more manual form into our system. But this is what one of our mechanical check sheets would look like. And again, it's really beneficial to have this on the cloud-based system where you could be walking around the actual rig with your iPad or be doing it right on your smartphone, eliminating all that paper, giving that convenience where they can fill it out from anywhere. And then also with certain items like this equipment maintenance request, for example, I can even have, whenever this particular form is filled out, that it will automatically send a notification to whoever needs to be aware of that. I can even have that dialed down to what even the equipment is if different people manage different pieces or areas. So by having the ability to send them that notification, they can even go into that form. So if I click on this one here, you'll see this was filled out by Ruth, and looks like there was something wrong with the stretcher, a couple of broken straps, and Bob actually, the maintenance person, went in and he updated the form and notified us that that has been replaced. So you can keep tabs on those and exactly when they've been updated and modified. As I can see, this was submitted at a particular day and time, and that's exactly when Bob went in and modified it. On top of that, there are a lot of great reporting functionalities that come with those. So let's go to an example for like the ambulance check sheet again, where whenever this is filled out, you can track, what exactly the rig number is, different things like that. But you can run reports for any piece of information within that whole form. You see, here's all the check boxes for basically every single field that exists in that form. And you can run that for, let's say, all of 2017. And that can give you all this data. You can sort through it in a number of different ways. And all of our reports do export into Excel. So if you even need to get a little more specific on how you're working through that data, you can always pull it into Excel and format it from there. And that's consistent too with a lot of our actual schedule reports. So if you wanted to pull a report, and let's see here, if we go to November quick, you can see this one, it really has a lot of detail in it. It's more of a breakdown per shift, per person. It gives you all the different schedules, the time types, the different filters. Again, it might seem like a lot of information, but usually with reports, the more the better. And again, a lot of different ways to filter that down. So really your go-to always is to click that edit link, as that's where you're going to be able to trim down and say, I just want to see the information for this truck or that position or that time type. And then another one I wanted to run you through really quick is going to be the summary report. Very similar concept, all the different scheduled time. Essentially anything that's on the calendar will be in these reports. And then another really important one aside from the schedule is our system log. So especially anyone who was coming from spreadsheets, this system log is really important as it tracks every single action that's ever taken within your system. It gives you a date and time stamp of when that action was taken, who took that action, what did they do, who it affected, any additional details in here. So you're really getting a lot more accountability, and just being able to look back and verify when exactly something did happen. If there is any sort of, maybe dispute on, I had this in on time, but you may not have. So really just a nice tool that you can look back and see when any of those changes have actually happened. And then in terms of accountability, there's actually another tool here I wanted to run you through really quick. This one's called a required message. And let's just type right in here. You know, a lot of people use this for different things, some more informal, some very formal. But we're going to use, let's say there's a new policy and you have to bring me, let's say you have to bring me coffee every morning. So you can type that in, you can send that out to whoever you want. Let's send that to Carlos here. I've been bugging him all day. So if we send that to Carlos, it doesn't go outside of the system, but the next time he logs in, this is the message he's going to see, and it's going to say, you must read and verify this before you continue, because he can click on whatever he wants here. He cannot get past it. He does have to agree that he's read and understand it and hit continue, and that'll actually let him get into the system. So you'll know that that message has been acknowledged, as you can pull up a report for when each person has actually acknowledged your message, especially if you send that to multiple people. But in terms of the basic overview, that was essentially everything I wanted to cover, really just to wrap things up. I did want to show everybody in the help section, there's a lot of great videos that cover different areas of our system. If you want a little bit more information there, we do also have a lot of great blog articles that we write, especially for any new features that we're releasing in the system. And then another important one here is the mobile site. That'll show you how to actually get onto our mobile version. We do have, again, an outstanding support team. So under that is our contact us page. So you can feel free to reach out to that information and ask us any questions you have. But like I said, that's about it that I had for our general overview here. So let's dive into some of the questions that we have. Just bear with me one moment. All right. So I did have a question here about how exactly the mobile site works. So I can actually give you a quick little tour of that. Let's go under here as Carlos. And essentially, when you pull it up on your phone, it will look something like this. So this is going to give you any sort of upcoming shifts, any trades. It's really essentially, again, just a dashboard that will show you any relative information that's going on. But the most important part, right, when you pull it up, you'll know what your next shift is right here. Under that, we also do have the daily summary. So the daily summary will give you really a list of all your different schedules that are out there for the day. So you can see who you're working with, anything like that. And then another important one, of course, is going to be the My Schedule. The My Schedule, the functions are almost identical to the actual My Schedule page in the desktop. So you should be pretty familiar with that. But basically, you can tap on any of these pages here, or any of these days. So you tap right onto those and you can see what's going on for that day. And to interact with them, if I tap on the 15th here, I can actually see we're short that day, so I probably won't get this approved, but I'm going to click on it anyways. If I click on that, I can hit request time off or request trade. So again, all pretty straightforward there. All right, let's see what else we have for questions. Someone did notice that we do have a time clock, so I can give you a brief little overview on that. Under the time clock, if we go to manage kiosks here, this is basically what our time clock looks like. So it is a web-based kiosk. It's not an actual physical kiosk. So you can essentially set this up on as many different machines as you would like, and we can authenticate it to make sure that they're actually where they say they are at a particular area. So we can set those up. Currently, you will have it so they will just pick their name, type in their password, and then they can hit clock in or clock out. And really, the nice part about having a time clock built into your scheduling system is we know when they should be working. So with that said, when they go to clock in, we can actually set up different grace periods is an important function to this, where I can set it up so I allow people to punch in, let's say, up to 15 minutes early, I'm totally okay with, but you better not be more than 5 minutes late. So you can define that right into there. And if it's anything outside of that window, then it will it will stop them from clocking in, and it forces them to type in a reason as to why they are so late or so early. So then that will also be attached to that particular record. So when you go to reconcile some of those different time clock hours, which is actually done right on this page, this is a nice little screen that will show you who's actually clocked in on a given day, of when they actually were supposed to work and when they actually showed up for work. So you can compare that against, let's say Leslie here, if let's see, they had clocked in on a given day, it would just tell you that they're currently clocked in, and then you can adjust those. So if someone, of course, people forget to clock in or out on occasion, and you can always manually adjust that for them too. Looks like I have a quick question here from Jonathan. It looks like, do we work on Apple products, iPad, iPhone? Yes, we are not specific to any sort of platform, and we do work across all current browsers. So your Safari, Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer, all the above, as long as it's relatively up to date, then we do work across all the different platforms there. All right. So let's see if we have another question here. We did have someone ask about the storage. So the storage is really an area where you can upload any sort of documentation, and you do have up to 200 gigs of storage space in here. So you can create these different folders. A lot of people do use this in conjunction with the required message. So like I had mentioned, if you do have like a new policy or you want people to read some sort of training material, you can actually upload that into the storage area so that people can access it really from anywhere. So even if it's from home, any sort of part-timer who might not be around to give handouts that often, you can give them access to it right through here. All right, looks like we did have another question here on, do we have the ability to essentially sync up your calendar with an external calendar? So you do have the ability to click on the Share My Schedule, and we can actually hook up our system through an ICS function that will automatically populate the data from our system to your personal calendar. So if you are using a Google, Apple, or Outlook calendar, you can transfer that information over there. All right. So looks like we do have a question on cost. Of course, happy to talk about that. In general, it's going to be based on the amount of users that you have in your system. Now, we do have a base pricing of anything 41 members and under is going to be under that base price. But from there on and up, it's going to be anywhere between $5 to $7 per user per month. It again will be all kind of specific to what exactly your needs are. So that's kind of a rough range. But that's something that one of our sales or account executives would be happy to give you more of an accurate quote after you get a chance to speak with them, and we can learn a little bit more about how you operate. And we do, again, as you've probably seen, and is definitely on our website is where you can access that, but we do, of course, offer custom demos. So if you would like us to actually build you your own custom system so you can check it out and try it yourself, again, just let us know, and we're happy to give you a little bit more of a sample that would make sense to exactly how you operate. Okay, got another question here on integration with payroll. We do have really two main options for payroll integrations, and those are going to be really based on what I would consider our free version, which is being able to export a lot of the data that's in our reports to a CSV format. And from there are a lot of different payroll providers that do allow the import of that data. So it is more of an export, import, transfer of information, but it can be very quick and very easy. depending on what exactly you're trying to transfer over there. The other option is we do have an API. So if you are looking for more of a direct integration, that's a conversation that we could have. We just need to know a little bit more about exactly, again, what you're trying to transfer over and who we're looking to actually connect with there. So overall, again, I think that wraps it up for the questions here. And again, thank you everybody so much for joining us for this high-level overview of the Aladtec Workforce Management System. And I really hope that I've kind of shown and explained how we can streamline these different scheduling chores, different types of communications, tracking certifications, overtime, all those different scheduling related tasks. So again, one of our system specialists and account executives would be happy to prepare you more of an in-depth demonstration unique to your agency. Feel free to go to our website at www.aladtec.com or give us a call at 888-749-5550. We will be leaving the meeting open here for a few minutes right after we shut off the audio. There are a handful of handouts right in the GoToWebinar control panel. So go ahead and check those out for more material. But again, thank you everybody for joining, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.